For 5 years, I hid my billionaire identity for love, only to discover my wife pregnant with her ex's child, all to fulfill his dying wish. Heartbroken, I filed for divorce. Now she's desperately begging forgiveness, but I've moved on with someone else. Her final plea? A shocking live stream. Ding. Story Shots reminds you to click the subscribe button at the bottom right corner to read the full novel. For 5 years, I hid my true identity as a billionaire CEO, living a simple life with my wife, Lily. On the day of our 5th wedding anniversary, she surprised me with a pregnancy test that showed a positive result. Just as I was about to share my joy and reveal everything about my life, I noticed a status update from her first love, Jason, who was battling terminal illness. He wrote, "I am thankful to my dearest big sister, who's generously agreed to bear a child for me just before I leave this world." Attached was a sonogram and a photo of them embracing tightly. I silently put away the $1 million necklace I had planned to give her. Instead, I commented, "May this loving family always be happy." After that, I proposed a divorce to Lily. When she learned everything, she cried until her eyes were red, kneeling before me and begging for forgiveness. Just as I was packing my things, Jason called. His voice, laced with a mocking glee, came through the phone. "I'm truly sorry, Alex. I thought Lily would have consulted you about this. I'm dying, and she's willing to have a child for me to keep my last bit of bloodline. Don't worry, it was through IVF. There was no cheating involved. Once the baby arrives, it will still call you father." He scoffed after finishing his words. "Really, Lily? Alex is still your husband, regardless of how much you care about me. He should still be your first priority." Crushing my phone in my hand, I fought back the nausea rising within me, only to hear Lily's careless reply. "Why do you care about him? He just wants a divorce and doesn't focus on what matters. Do you really think he would dare to divorce me? Isn't it always him crying and begging me to stay? He'll settle down in a few days." She then resumed her earnest inquiries about Jason's health. "Your top priority right now is to take care of your health. Our child can't wait to call you Daddy when it's born." The shadow reflected on the floor-to-ceiling window looked pitifully tragic. In Lily's heart, I was always like a stray dog, at her beck and call when needed and discarded when I wasn't. Taking a deep breath, I texted her, "Lily, I have prepared the divorce agreement. When it's convenient for you, come home, sign it, and your family of 3 can finally be reunited." She scoffed. "What? Have you finally come to your senses? Planning to scare me with a divorce agreement?" Before I could respond, she mocked me again in a sarcastic tone. "Alex, can you ever get enough? Can't you see what's important? Jason is critically ill. He's the only child of his parents. I want to leave them with some bloodline, some memory. Can't you understand that? In your mind, is the green hat on your head more important than a person's life?" In the past, I would have tried my best to dissuade her, but now I didn't even have the strength to argue. I simply told her, "Call me whenever you're ready. I will be available." Seeing my seriousness, Lily spitefully retorted, "Fine. Remember, you asked for this divorce. You better not regret it. And don't forget to leave your keys behind. I don't wish to see you sticking around like a flea again. You're such an annoyance." She hung up the phone with a click, leaving me staring blankly at the empty room. Our 5-year relationship just ended like that. I calmly walked out the door, dragging my luggage behind me. I hid the key beneath a stone next to the front door, even snapping a picture of the hidden location for Lily. Lily didn't respond. I wondered what she was doing now. Was she doting on her beloved Jason, taking care of him with tender affection? Or was she gently stroking her slightly swollen belly, dreaming of their future harmonious family of 3? All these things no longer involved me. I first met Lily at a business expo. I was the biggest investor in the city, invited to attend an evening gala. She was on stage, performing the guzheng, and her aura of refined aloofness instantly drew me in. I pursued her for 2 years, but Lily was always lukewarm toward me. Just when I thought she wasn't interested and I was about to give up in frustration, she sought me out again. That day, amidst a thunderstorm, she appeared at my hotel room door, drenched from head to toe. She uttered a single sentence. "Do you like me? If you want to marry me, let's go get our marriage certificates right now." Her sudden confession left me almost too overwhelmed with happiness to react. For her, I declined the well-matched marriage my parents had arranged, willingly severing ties with my family to become a penniless nobody. Lily came from an ordinary family. I didn't want to disturb her and add to her pressure, so I never revealed my true identity to her. For the past 5 years, I lived with her in this shabby, old house, enjoying a simple and frugal lifestyle. At our hardest times, I even worked at construction sites as a part-time brick mover, yet I never let her suffer. I believed love makes water into a feast, but she slapped me hard with the proof of another man's child growing inside her. Jason is ill. His parents hope to save some lineage. After all, I'm not pregnant anyway. You've always wanted a child, haven't you? So consider Jason's child as our own. If you really love me, why should you care who the father is? When Jason is gone, you will be the father of this child. Isn't that enough? Once, Lily and I had a child. When she unexpectedly became pregnant, she thought I had done it deliberately and slapped me hard in front of many people at the hospital. It was only after I agreed to abort the baby and start living a double income, no kids, lifestyle with her that she finally calmed down. She said pregnancy would affect her figure and that she didn't want to be trapped in a life of mundane household chores because of a child. But those high-flying reasons became a joke the moment she revealed she was carrying Jason's child. It's not that she didn't want to give birth. She just cared who the father was. If that was the case, I should let her be. After deciding to divorce, I called my parents. When I told them I was getting a divorce and planning to take over the family business, they wished they could return to the homeland to pick me up immediately. My mother casually asked me, "Now that you're divorced, who gets the house I gave you before?" Initially, when I married Lily, I broke away from my family. My mother had secretly visited me, seeing that I was living in an old shabby apartment of less than 50 square meters. She bought us a large flat in the city center as our marriage house, hoping it could improve our living conditions. I didn't want Lily to know about my identity, fearing it might distress her, so I lied that the flat was borrowed from my cousin. My cousin had moved abroad and allowed us to live there at any time. However, Lily said she was accustomed to living in the old house and didn't want to feel like a guest at someone else's place. I told my mother, "We never lived in that house. I'll contact the agent and sell it tomorrow." Hanging up the call, I received another call from Lily. "Where are you? Why aren't you home yet?" Her tone was cold and hard, as if I was the one who had committed a mistake. "You better stay at the hospital and accompany Jason. Don't concern yourself with where I am." My tone was flat. I would have had a heated argument with her earlier, but now I felt nothing for her anymore. "Alex, stop acting weird with me. I didn't do anything wrong. Jason and I used in vitro fertilization. Nothing happened between us. Can you not create a fuss?" Before I could respond, she arrogantly instructed me, "Jason's situation is getting worse. Go to the market early in the morning, buy some lotus root and ribs, and stew a soup for him." She spoke as if it were a matter of course, which made me laugh inwardly. Where did she get the confidence to belittle me like this? Seeing that I didn't answer, she continued to urge me, her tone imbued with a hint of impatience. "Once it's done, deliver it to the hospital. Don't let Jason wait too long. By the way, Jason is quite selective. He doesn't eat onions or garlic. Just put in some ginger. It needs to be stewed for at least 5 hours." Even though I was at my wit's end with Lily, listening to her say these words still left me slightly upset. In our 5 years of marriage, I always put her first. I never let her do house chores, because she said she was a zither player. Her hands were her brand and livelihood. She comfortably accepted my care, but she forgot that this wasn't what I should be doing. Seemingly sensing my upset mood, Lily sighed, "Why don't you understand? What can be more important than life and death in this world? This is Jason's only wish before his death. Why can't you be more considerate? You do not know. Ever since we had this child, Jason's mood has improved a lot. He's even more proactive in cooperating with the hospital for the treatment. But because of the drama you suddenly caused, his condition has relapsed. Why can't you wish for the better? I sarcastically huffed, almost trembling as I typed out a string of characters. Find a time and sign the divorce agreement. Lily was silent for a long while on the other end before she begrudgingly replied, "Fine. If you want to sign, then we'll sign. Bring the agreement and come find me tomorrow." Finally, silence was restored from her end. My mother sent over a message. "Alex, didn't you say that you two never lived in that house? Then who has been using the water, electricity, and gas bills for all these years?" To figure out what was going on, I made a point to visit the house. The one who opened the door was Jason, dressed in his sleepwear, looking groggy. Inside the house was filled with everyday items, as well as sketching boards, easels, paints, and such strewn everywhere. Upon seeing him, I suddenly remembered something. 2 years ago, Jason, as a rising artist, had been interviewed by the media. Back then, Lily joyfully showed me the video, her face beaming with pride. I found their interview backdrop strangely familiar. Thinking about it now, isn't this the marriage house my mom prepared for us? Did Lily say she didn't want to depend on others, but ended up letting Jason live in the house? Jason seemed pretty surprised too, asking me, "Didn't Lily ask you to make soup for me? Where's the soup?" I clenched my fingers tightly, asking him, "Why are you living here?" Jason beamed. "This house you're talking about? Lily gave it to me. She said the house I was renting before was too small and run down, uncomfortable to live in. She thought moving here would give me more creative energy and inspiration." Even though his face was pale, it couldn't hide his sleazy smile. He clicked his tongue, deliberately saying, with a sigh, "When you love someone, you want to give them the best. Not like some people." Even after getting married, Lily had to squeeze into that rundown house. As a man, how useless are you? I merely laughed despairingly. The past 5 years of cramped living with Lily in that cramped old house replayed in my mind. Lily's inherited property was an old wooden attic, damp with a musty smell from the ages. At first, when I moved in, it was not comfortable, coughing day and night. Each board on the floor at home. I changed one by one until it finally stopped emitting a squeaky noise when stepped on. But every time it rained, rain would leak from every corner of the eaves, and we could only hurriedly clutch a bowl to catch the water. Yet she secretly allowed Jason to live in our wedding house for several years. At this moment, a possibility dawned on me. When Lily first caught Jason playing footsie in a rented house with a greasy and vulgar lady, she was so upset to see that he would rather mess around with that kind of woman than clearly accept her feelings, that, in her distress, she came to me in the rain to get married. So, did she give this house to Jason to live in just to sever his relationship with the lady? What a meticulously planned love, so humble in its existence. My argument with Jason drew the attention of our neighbors. They pointed at me and said, "Where did this madman come from? How can he say this house is his? Isn't this Mr. Smith and Miss Hayes's wedding house? We bump into each other all the time. Can't we recognize our own neighbors?" Exactly, Mr. Smith and Miss Hayes have been living here for several years now. Their relationship as a couple is so good. They have always been a model couple in our community. Haven't you seen the promotional poster of their couple on the community bulletin board? What I thought was a passionate contribution now seemed particularly laughable. I quickly noticed that there were a few nude art oil paintings in the living room displayed by Jason. In one of them, it was unmistakably Lily primping and preening in her underwear. Even the mole on her chest is identical. My head buzzed, and I subconsciously approached the painting. Just at this moment, the elevator door suddenly opened. Lily, looking every bit the devoted and dutiful wife, appeared carrying 2 large bags. Seeing me here, she paused, her face immediately turned grim. Once upon a time, I thought I loved her. We lived together, a perfect pair, for 5 years. But now, I suddenly realized, the woman standing in front of me now seemed so strange and frightening. Lily quickly regained her composure, a dark expression on her face, complaining discontentedly. "Didn't I ask you to bring soup to the hospital? What are you doing here? Where is the soup I asked you to cook for Jason? Don't tell me you'd leave a sick man hungry?" I remained silent, calmly and coldly watching her. With a wavering gaze, Lily pushed me, urging me to step inside the house first. "Never mind. I should have known better than to rely on you. Fortunately, I brought some groceries. You can cook for him here. I need to take Jason to the hospital for a checkup. Once you've cooked, put it in a thermos and take it to the hospital." I abruptly shook off her hand, asking assertively, "Lily, wouldn't you first tell them who this house really belongs to?" Lily couldn't take it anymore. The stares from everyone around her were too heavy, like a thick fog closing in. With anger bubbling up inside, she snapped, "This house isn't even yours." Alex shot back, "We're not living here. What's the harm in letting Jason stay for a few days? Are you really this petty?" She had carried Jason's child and claimed her womb was empty. So why was it suddenly an issue that he stayed in her marital home? Lily always had a twisted excuse for everything. Finally, I lost my patience. Raising an eyebrow, I said, "A few days? He's been living here for years. And you both act like you're the perfect couple." Lily's face flushed as she struggled to defend herself. "Our relationship is clear. Jason is so obsessed with his work that he forgets to eat. I just come by to clean his room and cook for him. Don't put your accusations on me. The neighbors called you two the perfect couple, not me or Jason. Why are you blaming me for that?" It was clear she enjoyed playing the part of the caring girlfriend. Yet, during our 5 years of marriage, she never lifted a finger to help around the house. I remembered the times I was bedridden with a fever and couldn't cook. Instead of showing sympathy, she had caused a scene, accusing me of treating her like a maid. Even on my birthday, when I longed for longevity noodles, she had refused to cook. She had looked at me with disdain and said, "If you want longevity noodles, go back to your mother's place. I won't indulge your spoiled whims." So now, she pretended to care for Jason, acting like she had been devoted all along. My anger flared, and I pointed to a painting hanging in the living room. Pure and innocent, like being stark naked. Her face twisted in shock. When she saw the painting, she snapped. Grabbing the nearest object, she hurled it at my feet. "Alex, don't be unreasonable. I was just modeling for Jason. It's your mind that's tainted. Not everyone thinks like you." Jason, ever the victim, chimed in. "It looks like I'm not welcome here, Lily. Maybe I should just move out." Lily quickly jumped in, panic flashing across her face. "What nonsense are you talking about? Who said you were going to die? You can't stand the smell of disinfectant at the hospital. You won't sleep there. If you don't take care of yourself, how can you fight cancer? And don't forget, our child is waiting to be born and call you Dad." With a sharp glare aimed at me, she added, "Don't interfere. This house isn't yours. As long as I have the keys, it is my house. No one can kick you out," I replied coolly. I let out a small laugh as I pulled out the property title. "Do you want to check again whose house this is?" When she saw the red-colored property book, shock washed over her. "How is this possible?" I called home, and soon the lawyer arrived with a team of bodyguards. The property manager came in, bowing slightly. "I'm sorry, Mr. Alex. It was our negligence that allowed outsiders to intrude. We'll clear this up immediately." He waved his hand, and staff members began to gather Jason's things. Lily wasn't having it. She shoved them aside, blocking the entrance with a fierce glare. "Are you done yet, Alex? Jason is sick. The environment here is good and close to the hospital. He's borrowing your place for a while. Are you really that selfish? You're pushing a cancer patient closer to death over jealousy." By now, the neighbors had caught on. "Miss Hayes, so you and Mr. Smith aren't married?" one asked, curious. Lily's cheeks flushed and she stammered, "I never claimed we were married. You all insisted. Jason is my friend, and he's going through a hard time. I just wanted to help. One neighbor interjected. But isn't the child in your belly Jason's? Lily lowered her head, instinctively protecting her swollen belly. Jason is an only child, and he's terminally ill. His parents wanted to leave behind a legacy, so they borrowed my womb for an IVF baby. Even the neighbors looked appalled at her words. Lending your house to that guy? And your womb? Who do you think you're fooling? Your husband must be pitiful, having such a fickle wife. We thought you and that Smith guy were the perfect couple. Turns out you're just using your husband's house to shelter your lover. How disgusting. The harsh words turned Lily and Jason into a spectacle. Finally, unable to take it, Lily shot me a death glare. Are you satisfied? Is this what you wanted? I threw the divorce agreement at her. The result I want? You've always known. Once you sign this, we're divorced. And you three can be a happy family, I added. Lily hesitated, refusing to sign. Jason is sick. Where do you expect us to go? Are you really this cold-hearted? I know you're jealous of him and worried about the baby. After I give birth and hand the baby over to the Smith family, I can come back to you, right? I scoffed. Lily, do you really think I'd wait for you to change your mind? Before she could argue, I took the divorce agreement from the lawyer and set it in front of her. I've signed it. Now it just needs your signature. Her face twisted in conflict, but she refused to sign. The lawyer spoke up. Miss Hayes, this house is Mr. Alex's premarital property. Even if you refuse to divorce, you have no rights here. Based on the evidence, we can sue you for divorce, and you won't benefit from that. If you want to avoid a scandal and damage your reputation, just sign. The neighbors chimed in. Exactly. What's the point of dragging this out? It's embarrassing to stall like this. Just sign and stop torturing your husband. Under their scrutinizing gazes, Lily finally relented and signed the paper. I took the agreement and turned to leave. But then Lily cried out, Alex, where are you going? Tears streamed down her face as she clung to my arm, pleading. You're just angry, right? You won't really leave me? You love me the most, don't you? You promised to cherish me forever. We've been married for 5 years. You can't just walk away from me like this. But I pulled away, meeting her panicked gaze. Once we're divorced, we're strangers. Please respect yourself. I returned home, a place I hadn't visited in ages. I had turned my back on my parents for Lily. For 5 years, I hadn't gone home. But now, I intended to make up for my absence and spend time with my family. My company abroad was getting ready to go public. There was so much to manage. They needed someone to oversee everything, and that meant I had to step up. Just 2 weeks after returning home, I bought my tickets to head back overseas. Life in a foreign country was a whirlwind. Every day was busy, filled with conversations in different languages and surrounded by people of all skin colors. I quickly forgot the 5 years I spent with Lily back in our home country. Those memories felt like a distant dream, and even her face was beginning to fade from my mind. While I was overseas, I met a woman named Autumn. She was a well-known princess in York's social circle, studying abroad for years and just starting to take over her family's business affairs. For some reason, she started picking on me a lot. At an auction one evening, I noticed an antique vase that I really wanted. I thought it would be the perfect birthday gift for my mother. But every time I placed a bid, Autumn jumped in and outbid me. It was crazy. For a vase that was worth less than 5 million, she kept pushing the price up, and it reached 20 million. As everyone gasped in shock, the flustered butler came over and said, That's the fiancé the chairman and his wife arranged for you. Miss Valley came all the way from abroad just to meet you, but you stood her up. I looked at Autumn, who was all dressed up in a green velvet cheongsam, looking proud and a bit huffy. I couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. After the auction, I decided to block Autumn's path. Miss Valley, I said, trying to be smooth, I'm willing to pay double the price for that antique vase. Would you be willing to part with it? She lifted her chin, looking down at me. If you wanted it, you should have outbid me just now. I smiled. I didn't want to. I figured you would just keep raising the price. Instead of letting some outsider make money off it, I'd rather keep it in our circle, even if it's just to make friends with you." Her face turned a bright shade of red as she murmured, "Who says I'm part of your circle?" Dealing with this little princess wasn't easy. "So," I suggested, "how about I take you out to dinner as an apology for not showing up earlier?" She huffed. "Who needs your dinner? I can pay for myself." I clucked my tongue, thinking she was like a delicate flower, but really she was more of a thorny rose. Since she wouldn't sell me the vase, I shrugged and said, "Then I won't push it." Just as I was about to walk away, I heard her shout, "Wait! If one meal won't do, then 2, 3, or 4 should suffice." I turned around, surprised to see her biting her lip, a faint blush on her cheeks as she grabbed my arm. "Hurry up. I'm hungry. You're treating today. Pay me back for standing me up." So I took Autumn to a French restaurant. Before the food arrived, I received a long-awaited message from Lily. "Alex, could you come with me to the hospital tomorrow? I'm not feeling well. I think I need to get checked for pregnancy." I raised my eyebrows in surprise. Ever since I moved abroad, news about acquiring 3 multinational companies had spread everywhere. Was she really that out of the loop? I didn't reply, and then another message came through. "The situation got worse for Soo Young recently. I had to rush him for chemotherapy yesterday. I might have bumped my stomach in the elevator. It hurts so much, and there's some bleeding." I was lost in thought, staring at my phone, when Autumn suddenly said, "Thinking of another woman while dining with a girl is very rude." I chuckled at her proud expression and quickly switched off my phone, tossing it across the table. "Hold on to this for me. When you're satisfied, you can give it back." Autumn burst out laughing, her face lighting up like a rose in bloom. She teased, "Aren't you worried? Disconnecting from the world might mess up your important affairs." I joked back, "All I know is the most important thing right now is having dinner with an upset lady." That seemed to make her happy. "Did she really say she liked you? That she's always liked you? I heard you gave a lecture at her school when she was studying abroad, and from that moment, she wanted to be your wife. But when she finally convinced her parents for a business union with your family, you cut ties with your own family." Before I could respond, Autumn continued, "I know loving someone is hard, and forgetting someone is just as tough. Even if you've broken up, you still feel longing or nostalgia for her. But that's okay. I can wait." She paused, her eyes sparkling like a fox that had spotted its prey. "I'm confident I can erase her from your heart. I'll make you willingly become my husband." Autumn was impressive. Even as a little princess from Beijing's elite, she would sometimes stumble in the kitchen just to surprise me. She caused 5 kitchen fires and broke 6 plates before she finally served me a dessert that looked like a disaster. When I smiled at her, she pouted, "I might not be perfect now, but I have the heart. Just wait. With practice, I'll definitely get it right." When I tasted her dessert, the bread was slightly burnt, leaving a bitter hint. But somehow, I could still taste something sweet in it. Both Autumn and I were busy with work. Amid the chaos of living in a foreign country, we rarely had time to be together. Often, I'd finish drafting contracts and turn around to find Autumn curled up on the sofa, sleeping like a little cat. Watching her peaceful face, I couldn't help but wonder, what if I had never met Lily? What if I had accepted my parents' choice instead of breaking away to marry her? My life with Autumn might have been so different. Lily didn't give up easily either. She called me multiple times, but I never picked up. With no other options left, she started reaching out in every possible way. She sent me long messages on WeChat. "I waited for you for so long that day, but you didn't come. I thought you didn't care about me anymore. I found out you've gone abroad. Why didn't you tell me? The doctor said the baby inside me is at high risk. I'm not sure if I want this baby anymore. Alex, if I terminate this pregnancy, can we start over again?" Her messages left me confused, reminding me of the day she arrogantly told me not to regret divorcing her. Ignoring her might have made her feel desperate. She probably thought I had changed my number. So, She began using me as an emotional trash can, sending messages daily. Alex, I've been thinking about everything lately. I realize I made mistakes. I didn't consider your feelings. And throughout our marriage, you were always the one who understood and tolerated me. I admit I've been a terrible wife. I thought I had no feelings for you. But since you left, the house feels empty. I find myself calling your name, only to remember you're not there. Maybe I really do love you. At that moment, I couldn't take it anymore. I blocked her contact, ending all her emotional ramblings with one quick move. I was now with Autumn. The Carter and Valley families have shared our wedding news, and the media can't stop talking about it. They call it the wedding of the century, but it all seemed to trigger something in Lily. She bought a ticket and flew overseas just to confront me. For days, she waited outside our company, hoping to see me and Autumn together. When she finally caught up with us, tears streamed down her face. Alex, Jason has passed away. His condition got worse, she said, her voice trembling. I shrugged, barely registering the impact of her words. Condolences, I replied, trying to stay indifferent. She continued, I also had to terminate the pregnancy. Now I have nothing left. I raised an eyebrow, confused. Is there anything else? Then, she took a step closer, choking on her sobs. Will you please forgive me? She glanced at Autumn, hesitating. You love me so much. How could you marry another woman? I know you did this to provoke me, to make me apologize for what I did. You're just pretending to marry her, right? Now that I'm here, I regret the divorce. Can we start over? Autumn stepped in front of me, glaring at Lily. What do you mean by my dear? Alex is my husband now. Haven't you seen the wedding announcement? We even have the wedding dress ready. Do you need us to send you an invitation? Lily looked shocked, disbelief written all over her face. No, this can't be happening. You can't just leave me. She clung to my shirt. You're my husband. You said I was the one you loved the most. How could you go back on your word? I sighed and gently pulled her hands away. Lily, why are you holding on to this? She stared at me, wide-eyed, and I continued. I used to care about you a lot. I even thought about spending my life with you. I got approval from your family on our wedding anniversary. Remember? If things had been different, we might have made it work. But you made me see things differently. I turned to Autumn, holding her hand. Thanks to you, I've learned who truly deserves my love. I then sent a voice message to Lily, hoping to give her some clarity. I think you've always wondered why Jason didn't choose you. After hearing this, maybe you'll understand why. Lily and Jason were students at the same art academy. She was older than him, a year ahead, and they were both talented artists back then. Jason once won her heart with a painting of a girl playing the Carter Chain. But he was young, talented, and maybe a bit too arrogant. He dated fans, had brief flings with girls, and even an affair with an older woman. But he always kept Lily at arm's length, never really letting her in. Their classmates often wondered why he didn't choose her, and he would say, Sister, you're too good for me. You're like a bright moon, always out of reach. But with his friends, he joked, we're artists. Women are just inspiration. They want to settle down. I don't want that trouble. The recording I gave Lily was from her roommate. When she heard it, she was in shock. She fell to her knees on a street far from home, covering her face, sobbing. She once dreamed of having Jason as child, but now, that dream felt like a nightmare. This stomach that once held his child, it's just humiliation now, she cried. Alex, I'm so sorry. I was fooled by him. I didn't know. She trembled, reaching for my trousers. What do I need to do to earn your forgiveness? I shook her off firmly. Even the deepest love can fade away. Please don't disturb my life or my wife anymore. I walked away from Lily and eventually married Autumn. We spent 3 beautiful days celebrating in Bali, like a fairy tale. The world seemed to bless us. But on my wedding day, Lily made a tragic choice. She went live online, holding a knife to her wrist. Alex, I know you won't believe anything I say now. Once you loved me, but I didn't value it. I'll prove my love with my life. The people watching saw her as a spectacle, urging her to stop. By the time the police arrived, it was too late. In her last moments, she set our old house on fire, leaving behind a tragic end. In my study, I was glued to the news when Autumn entered. I pulled her close and sighed. Autumn hugged me tightly and said, "Don't be sad. We've decided to move forward. Let's not look back. I'll take care of you. Let's start our new life together." I nodded, turning off the news and pushing the past away in my mind. Now I feel grateful. I finally woke up from the chase after Lily and returned to my family, finding true happiness. Lily is just a part of my past where she belongs.